Now, here's Joe Cristiano.
Good morning, everyone. I've received some feedback, and I'm going to take that to heart. And basically, what the listeners have been saying, they say, Joe, you've been speaking about critical thinking. Can you give us an example? We've heard enough about critical thinking. Enough about critical thinking. Well, this is what the program is about. But I'll give you examples. But it's not going to come easy. You've asked a question that actually cannot be answered. And I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios that just happened recently to explain to you how I think. This is not the way you should think. This is the way I think. Didn't come easily. It came over 30 years of struggling. Why don't I understand things? I worked for a large multinational corporation. I used to go to meetings and everyone used to speak and they said things that sounded right, but it wasn't right. You know what I mean. You sit there and you just don't feel like there's something missing. Here's an example. I was at my favorite coffee shop enjoying a break of the day. You know, I get there early in the morning. It was sunny out just a couple of days ago. It was quite warm in the morning. Brought my two doggies with me. I'm sitting outside. Sun is warm. I tell you, everything is fine, right? I just want a break from whatever I do, which typically is reading about things that I talk about. Up comes an SUV, beautiful SUV, big white one, a high-end one. I'm not sure the model, but it was a high-end SUV, beautiful thing, and it parks aside where I was sitting. Out comes a woman, I'll guess for a second, about a 125-pound woman, right? Very nice lady, and she passes by. You say, well, Joe, where is there any sort of moral to the story in an SUV pulling up at a coffee shop, in southeast Tulsa with a woman driving? Now, normally people would just say, it's a SUV, woman driving, getting coffee, right? I wish I could see it that way. Because if I did, I wouldn't be driving myself nuts. I look at the SUV, I go, what on me? Look at this thing. I wonder how much that thing cost. Let's say the thing cost over $30,000, I'm sure. Maybe even over $50,000. I said, that's interesting that we need a $50,000 car to buy a cup of coffee. Isn't that interesting? But that's not what really bothered me. Let's sit back for a second. Let's make believe that we are not earthlings. We're not earthlings at all. We are from the hypothetical planet Zorg. We're Zorgians, okay? And we're flying around on our spaceship, go around, and we say, hey, I'd like to take a break. Let's stop at one of the planets and we'll get a cup of coffee, right? And bingo, we land here on Earth, right? Same place that I'm in, sits next to me. Now, these people look around, and one person, Zorgian, says to the other one, these Earthlings are kind of weird. They have a transporter, being a car, it's a transporter. Their transporters weigh 4,000 or 5,000 pounds to transport a person that weighs about 125 pounds. I wonder why they do that. Now, my question to you, when you've seen a large SUV and one person walk out of it, or two people, whatever, have you ever thought to yourself, that makes no sense? Why do we take the resources of our planet to develop something as attractive, by the way, as powerful, 300 horsepower, 250 horsepower, to transport someone that may weigh 100 or 200 pounds? And it's not that it's needed for that reason. It's goes to coffee, goes shopping, drive to work. You see, once you start thinking critically, it's not how you think critically, it's how you look at the world and everything around you. Another example, just yesterday, I'm at the doggy park again. I'm in charge of the doggies. I have one that's a Coton de Tuileries, we think, and the other one is a toy poodle. I love walking them because girls always go, oh, how cute. And my answer is always the same. I go, I know I'm cute, but I'm married. I'm awfully sorry. They usually slap me or something like that, but they laugh. But I'm at the doggy park, and guy sits next to me, young fella, real nice guy. and he's reading a book. And we're talking about his dog and my dog. And I said, hey, geez, I said, what you reading? Anything interesting? He said, oh, I'm going to school. He says, this is a textbook. I said, oh, that's nice. I said, what are you majoring in? He said, public administration. I said, public what? Public administration. I said, well, what's that? I've never bought a public administration in my life. Never bought anything. I've never seen anything manufactured called public administration. I've never touched, felt, or anything with public administration. I didn't say that to him. I said, well, what's that? He says, well, I can get a job with the federal government. Ba-da-bum, 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 ba-da-bum. I said, wait a minute. What do you do? He says, well, I'm going to administer stuff, the departments. I said, no, wait a minute. I said, I don't want to get on your bad side because you don't know me and I don't know you, and we just met and we're having a really nice time at the doggy park. And I said, do you mean you are going to take a job with a bankrupt employer? They're bankrupt because they're $15.6 trillion in debt, we think, but much larger than that. That wages wars around the world for reasons that's beyond anyone's comprehension, strips me of my rights on a daily basis, is overbloated, spends money like there's no tomorrow, and we're broke. And you're going to take a job with a self-serving behemoth? I said, what for? And the look he gave me, it was worth $1 million. He goes, well, I can go into the private sector. I can get a job, with a nonprofit organization. I said, don't go there. I said, let me tell you something. Have you thought of who your employer is going to be? He said, no. I said, why are you going there? He says, well, I thought that's where I would get my best opportunity in public administration. Yeah, public administration, you go for the government. Yeah, obviously you would do that. I said, let me be honest with you. I said, when I was a kid, and I'm 69 years old, I had my birthday this week. Thank you very much. Happy birthday, Joe. Thank you very much. 69 years old. I was a little kid. I had an Uncle Louie. He died 60 years ago, whatever it was. He was crazy. He belonged to the big organization. Not the bigger than the U.S. government. You know what I mean? The real big organization. He had a job in customer service. He's what they call took care of people. You know what I mean? Right? I said, I think I would rather work for that organization than the federal government, because as illegal as they are, at least when they bump somebody off, they make sure the guy's mother's taken care of. I said, this government does me no good at all. I said, I don't see any value in it. And the guy, he was shocked. No one ever spoke to him that way. And then all he talked about is the private sector and all the organizations he can get jobs. I said, but what do you produce? He says, well, no, I administer. I said, no, what do you produce as a result of this? You're going to school. You're going to get your MBA, your PhD, whatever you're getting. I said, what are you going to produce? What kind of value do you add to the society? I said, you're going to take a job in which I'm going to pay for. I demand to know, what are you going to produce? He was dumbfounded. Now, he didn't get angry with me. He understood where I was going. My point is, folks, is they say, well, give me an example of critical thinking. I can give you millions. But until you sit there and go, ha-ha, ha-ha, ha-ha. For example, you turn on TV and you hear a politician say, politicians ask a question. And the question goes, Senator, Congressman, and what do you think the outcome of this legislation will be, right? Typical question, you hear it, blah, 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 blah. The response is something like this. Well, George, I believe that if we take the proper measures, we can see an improvement in the current status, and I think that we could truly work together. And I'm cautiously optimistic that this possibly could take place. But I really believe that we can work hard at this, and I think that if we do, that we can, in fact, solve or at least start making inroads in solving this problem. And then the guy behind the microphone says, well, thank you so much, Senator O'Connor. Thank you so much for your enlightenment, right? And we're sitting there by the TV set, and what are we doing? We're sitting there going, well, geez, that was a great interview. Or we think nothing because our brains are turned off, which is typically the case when you watch television. But what did this guy say? Every time he says, I think or I believe, he's saying, I don't know. Remember that other program that I put on where I said, when you say you believe or you think, you're saying, I don't know. I don't know. People, and remember the example I gave, they say, well, man, you don't believe your wife loves you? No, I don't. I know my wife loves me. If I believed my wife loved me, that means I don't know. And if after all these years, if I had to believe that she loved me, I would be out. I say, honey, you got to find somebody who can say, I know you love me. I know my wife loves me. There's a difference. We're going to be back with a break after our break.